Let me tell you just a little bit about what we're doing. Back about 6 weeks ago, I kicked off something I call my Jobs for Virginians tour. And what we're doing is every Monday and Tuesday, we are touring a different region of the state, just kind of talking to folks about what's going on, with the economy. What's working, what's not working. Are there things we can do in state government to help make things better? Are there things we're doing in state government that are helping make things more difficult that we could stop doing? Just to help try to get this economy moving again and creating jobs. To give you some perspective on why we are so focused on this right now, clearly I think the biggest issue facing Virginia today is the need to get the economy moving again and create jobs. Give you some perspective on that. We are right now experiencing the highest sustained rate of unemployment that we've had in Virginia in 25 years. Our unemployment rate, I hope, peaked at 7.2% in June. It fell down to about 6.9% in July. So I'm hoping that's a positive sign. But it is, at that rate, it's the highest sustained rate of unemployment in 25 years. And there are 165,000 more Virginians unemployed today than were unemployed 2 years ago when this cycle started. And then when you even think beyond that about the impact, that obviously has an impact on families because a lot of families are having a harder time making ends meet. But it has a big impact on businesses. A lot of businesses, particularly small businesses, are having a hard time keeping the doors open. But it also has a huge impact on government because when people aren't working, they're not paying payroll taxes, and when they're not shopping, they're not paying sales taxes, and when they're not buying a car, they're not paying motor vehicle sales and use taxes. And if you measure economic growth by state tax collections, last year, in the fiscal year that ended June 30th, our state tax collections were down 9.2%. And the economists tell us they will be down again this year by another 1.3%. And that's the first time ever that we have seen 2 years of declining tax collections in Virginia. So that kind of tells you the magnitude of the problem that we're in the midst of. So, getting the economy moving again and helping creating jobs is not just good for families, it's good for businesses. It's also good for government because that's where we get the money we need to address issues like education and transportation and health care and the like. And in a very practical and timely way, the impact of all that comes true as this afternoon the governor in Richmond will be announcing a series of steps to reduce state spending by $1.5 billion in the current fiscal year. That's the size of the budget deficit that we have in the current fiscal year. And that's really, I think, the tip of the iceberg, because when we adopt our budget for the next biennium, those shortfalls, I think, will be even bigger. The budget today is only balanced because it includes $2.1 billion in federal stimulus money, and that disappears in 2011. So when the stimulus money disappears, you've got $1.5 billion, you've got $2.1 billion. You start adding it all up in the next 30 months. It's probably a $4 to $5 billion cumulative budget impact that the economic recession has on Virginia. So that's money we don't have for schools and for public safety and for health care, transportation, and everything else that we want and need state government to do. So that's why we're so focused on trying to get the economy moving again and create jobs. And we've got some ideas on how to do that. In fact, if you have a chance to visit my website at gobolling.com, you'll see something on there we call our Jobs for Virginians program. Let me take just a minute to tell you some of the things we're focused on. Number one, we are focused on providing tax cuts because we believe you stimulate the economy by cutting taxes, not by raising taxes. In particular, we want to provide more tax incentives for businesses that create jobs in Virginia. So we think those types of tax incentives are very important to help get the economy moving again. We're very focused on reducing regulations. We hear from a lot of businesses about how the regulatory climate in Virginia makes it difficult for them to do business. So we're very focused on looking for ways that we can eliminate and streamline the regulatory burden to make it easier for businesses to operate profitably in Virginia. We have made a series of proposals for investments, even in a challenging economic time, on some programs that we think are really critical to our economic development efforts. For example, we've proposed doubling the size of the Governor's Economic Opportunity Fund, which is the incentive fund that we use to attract new business and industry to Virginia. We've then proposed increasing access to that fund, particularly for rural communities. Because right now the capital investment triggers and the job creation triggers in the Governor's Opportunity Fund are so high that it tends to lock out a lot of the smaller projects that we're more likely to get in rural parts of the state. So we want to expand the size of the fund, but then also increase access to the fund. We've proposed increasing spending in the Economic Development Partnership, Tourism Council, the Film Office, all of which we think is important to help to get the economy moving again. We've got a lot of specific energy initiatives. We believe there's a tremendous opportunity right now to make Virginia the East Coast energy leader when it comes to producing more traditional forms of energy like nuclear and coal, and developing our offshore energy resources, but also renewables, wind and solar and biomass and biofuels. We think that in particular in rural parts of the state with our agricultural economy can be important. And then we also want to do more to make Virginia a leader in the area of new and emerging energy technologies. And we've got a proposal to create something called a Virginia Energy Institute and a Virginia Energy Center, which would help coordinate research into energy-related advances and then also economic development of energy-related businesses. So we think that's important. And then lastly, we have a real focus on, and I touched on this earlier, rural economic development. I try to keep these meetings nonpartisan. That's somewhat hard to do when you're 56 days away from an election, but I try. But one of the things, for example, that Bob McDonnell and I have said that we would like to do in a McDonnell-Bolling administration is that the Lieutenant Governor's chief job will be to serve as Virginia's Chief Jobs Creation Officer. I will oversee all of our economic development and job creation efforts. But we then want to have a Deputy Secretary of Commerce and Trade designated for the first time to focus on nothing but rural economic development. Because the truth is that when the economy is doing well, Northern Virginia will do fine, Richmond will do fine, Hampton Roads will do fine, but we still need an extra effort to attract business and industry and jobs to rural parts of the state. So we think by having a Deputy Secretary of Commerce and Trade focused 24/7 on that, it will help emphasize and prioritize rural economic development. And then last week in Martinsville, I announced that we want to create for the first time ever an office of the Virginia Economic Development Partnership in the city of Martinsville. And Martinsville for two reasons. One is there's a symbolic reason. Martinsville happens to have the highest unemployment rate in the state today, so it's a good show of our commitment to helping promote rural economic development in the community hardest hit by unemployment. But strategically also, because we really do think, South Side Virginia and Southwest Virginia, with a lot of the work that's been done through the Tobacco Commission and other groups, is really uniquely positioned to take advantage of future revenue or economic growth. So we have an office of the Economic Development Partnership in Martinsville, helping work, everything from South Boston and Danville and Martinsville and even into localities like Franklin and Stewart and places like that, that we really can get a good synergy in our rural economic development strategy. So we've got some ideas, but I'm sure that there are things that you all see kind of on the front lines that are working and things that aren't working that I'd really like to have a chance to chat about a little bit and kind of pick your brains on what you think we can do that helps, and if there are things we're doing that are getting in the way of helping your businesses prosper and succeed.